All right, welcome back, Lou, to the Digital by Attention podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, yeah, it's good to be back again.
It is good to be back. It's good to be back. And for everybody who is tuning in, Lou is our Google strategist here at AttentionMedia. And if you'd like to get to know Lou a bit more and hear her backstory, jump over to episode 25, where Lou and I did an introduction episode as well. So that's a good place to start. But today, Lou, we're going to talk about PPC advertising and how that can help business owners, specifically Google advertising. So very keen to jump into this conversation and just break it down a little bit more for all the business owners out there that'd like to know more about Google.
Yeah, for sure.
Excellent. I think what we'd like to do, and this is something that we obviously see quite a lot of in our day-to-day, obviously, in the agency, is that people know about Google, they know about PPC advertising, which obviously stands for pay per click. They know about it in a very general sense, but they don't know specifically, how it works and how it can help their business. So that's obviously the purpose of today's episode. So let's start with, what is PPC? What is Google advertising?
Well, apart from the obvious meaning pay per click, it is a helpful way to get your brand, get your business in front of customers, in front of audiences who you might not be able to reach through other channels. Particularly, if you're relying just on organic reach, well, that's good. There is a certain limit to it. And then you might also find that you've also got competitors taking up those spaces as well.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, yeah, it is a reality of marketing and advertising online that you have to take up space as well, and you often have to pay to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it is one of those. It's that conversation that we have with business owners a lot as well. It's like, what is the goal for your business? Are you looking to drive growth in your business? Are you looking to just simply maintain what you're doing at the moment? Because when we do talk pay per click, obviously there is an investment that needs to be made, and it's always a good idea to make sure that we break down what is the end goal, so that we can decide on what that investment is going to look like and what's the best approach. In terms of, obviously we're talking Google specifically, can you talk to us more around how Google ads work? What are the placements? What do the ads look like? From a business that's going to set up a Google advertising strategy, what's involved and how does it work?
Okay, well, we'll start with Google search ads. So these are the sponsored results that appear when you search for something on Google. They'll appear above organic search results that didn't pay to be there.
Yep.
And yeah, essentially what you can do is say, if you think of a search query that your customer might type into Google, like snow boots, your ad could appear there at the top of the results whenever somebody's looking for that or researching the next pair of snow boots.
Mm-hmm. Yep, perfect. I think that's it's a fairly easy one for sort of everybody to understand, and the benefits that would come from that. Obviously, the way that Google search works, there's a lot of different factors that go into it, but really simply, somebody types a keyword, a product, a service, they're looking for something particular on Google, and then ideally you want your search result from your website to show up as high as it possibly can in Google so that you get the click and you get the traffic through to your website. What can happen a lot of the time is that if you don't have a paid strategy, if your website isn't performing as well as it could be, if the pages on your website with that particular product or service are not optimized, then you're not going to have as great a chance to show up at the top of Google. And that's where Google ads can come in to make sure that you are up there with the competition and you are getting those clicks and you are getting that traffic.
And like, it might be that you are on Google, but maybe you're on page 3 or 5 and nobody goes that far.
Actually, that's a great question. When was the last time that you went to page 2 on Google, Lou? Do you remember?
I don't know.
No, neither do I. I honestly don't know either. It's almost these days. And I think even more so if you're on a mobile device as well. I mean, it's compounded even more. But I honestly don't remember the last time I went to page 2 on Google either. You almost forget about it in a sense. You sort of look at the results at the top of the page that you can see once you've made that search. And if it's not there or it's not what you're looking for, then it's on to the next thing. So it is really important to be on page 1. So, all right, Google search, that makes sure that you're sitting up the top of search results. What's another placement with Google PPC?
Well, another one that also shows up in search results page is shopping ads.
Yep.
So again, with the snow boots example, it'll put you sort of like right at the top of the page above everything else with like a picture of the snow boots you're selling. And yeah, again, if you're not there, other people will be there and you could be missing out on that traffic.
Yep. I love that. And the way that the shopping ad looks, obviously it has a picture of the product in question, and normally it will have the price sitting underneath it as well and the brand name. It's fairly simple, but it is a visual type of ad. You click on that ad and it takes you directly through to the landing page or the product page where people can find more information and purchase that product. So again, that works really well because it comes with that visual representation. I think a really good point to make here as well is for anybody who is tuning in and they're thinking, well, is Google Ads for me or not? I think essentially, if you want to break it down, people are searching for your product or service day in and day out. Like that's just fact. Like, there is so much Google search happening on a daily basis. And the question is, are you showing up or not? Do you want to, generate more revenue or not? Because the opportunity is there. People are searching for your product or service, and then it just comes down to whether you're showing up or not. So Google search and Google shopping ads are definitely two of the key players. What's next?
I just wanted to make one more point about Google shopping ads. So it does appear on search results, but you're not actually targeting keywords. In this instance, with shopping ads, you kind of want to make sure that your website is very well optimized and that you've got all of the information and data that is useful to Google and customers in order to show up in those search results.
Yeah, that's a great thing to mention as well. Again, it really comes back to, and this is probably a conversation for a separate podcast, but more and more importance is being placed on the performance and the structure of your website these days, right? So the first rule when it comes to paid advertising is that the purpose of the ad is to sell the click, right? That's the step. The ad isn't there to make a purchase or make a sale. The purpose of the ad is to get a click. What's the next step? We need to get that traffic to somewhere where they can make a purchase or make that next step. And these days, your website, Google is very, very smart. The algorithms are constantly updating and improving. Machine learning is getting better and better. And Google knows that, okay, you have set up an ad and you're sending that traffic to a website. How is that website set up? Is it going to be a good experience for the user? Does it perform well? Is it frictionless? And if it's not, that's going to have a negative impact on how your ads work. So that's a really, really good point to make. And I think we can definitely turn that into another podcast soon as well. So we've got Google Search and Google Shopping. That's 2 out of the 4 key placements. What's next?
Let's talk about display ads.
Awesome.
So the purpose of these is more sort of like getting people familiar with your brand and creating recognition. They can also be used in such a way to get people to come back to your website if they visited earlier.
Yep. Perfect. They can be used as a bit of a retargeting strategy as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Excellent. I think one of the key things that makes Google advertising so effective is that it does have those different types of ads, right? And you've got your text-based search ads, but then you've also got your visual display and shopping ads as well. So there's different ad placements that look differently. They perform in different ways, and when used strategically together, it's a really powerful mix. With display ads, how does a business what are the options for a business with display ads? Like, how do they create a display ad? Who creates a display ad? What does it look like? What do they need? Have you got some tips around that?
Yeah. So there's 2 main ways to create them. You can either create banners, which are a particular size, and those are GIF images, and they fit around, news websites at the top or in the sidebar.
Yep.
and they're pretty common. Like we see them all over the place.
They chase you around the internet.
Yeah, and usually you'd get a graphic designer to create those.
Yep.
And
Perfect.
so there's the other type, which is responsive display ads, and um, the way that they work is they sort of can fit to any sort of screen size dynamically. Yeah, based on whatever device or screen someone is on. And those comprise of not necessarily, you don't necessarily have to make specific image sizes, but um, basically with those you provide different headlines and descriptions, photos and videos, and then Google will use its machine learning to figure out which are the best combinations of images and videos and headlines to show to people.
And I think with with all of that, whether it's Google Search, Google Display, or Google Shopping, it's extremely customizable in a way that the business, the ad strategist, the media buyer has the choice and the flexibility to choose which keywords you want the ads to show up for, which placements those ads are shown in, which websites those ads are shown in. So it's not just a case of creating an ad and then bang, it's out in the big wide world of the internet. You have the option to be very strategic around who sees that ad, where it's placed, where it's shown, all that sort of stuff. So obviously, depending on your business, depending on your brand, there's lots of different options there to make sure that it's the right fit for you.
Oh yeah, like that's another thing we can probably go into in another podcast is just all the different ways you could target people. So it's not like we're going after specific individuals. That's not really how it works, but we can target, for instance, specific websites that we want our ads to show on, or we can target sort of audiences based on their general interests or the kind of things that they've been researching. So yeah, the Google machine has ideas about what kind of people are interested in buying particular things or reading about specific topics, and we can go, this is an idea of the people we want, then put the ads there, Google.
Yeah, perfect, exactly. And that again, sort of to reiterate, that pay per click, feature is that anytime there's a cost associated. Obviously, with all of the ads that are on Google, it's an auction-based system where different ads are bidding against each other depending on how you've set things up, and a particular ad is going to win the auction and it's going to display on the internet. If somebody then clicks on that ad, that's when it starts to cost the business owner, and the cost of that click is completely dependent on the type of keyword and all of essentially the supply and demand, the competition that's online for those particular keywords. So I think that's another thing that we can dive into shortly in terms of costs, etc. But the fourth placement is YouTube with Google Ads. So obviously Google owns YouTube, and that's another placement where you can run pre-roll ads, mid-roll ads, a whole range of different types of ads across YouTube. So do you want to touch on that quickly for us too?
Yeah, so it's functions in a similar way to display ads. So you kind of just want to use this platform to get people to remember you, and also kind of tell a story in a kind of way, just to get people familiar with your business, your message, what kind of problems you solve, and all that kind of stuff. It's much more expensive than the other platforms, but it is proven to be effective in getting people to recognize and remember you.
Yeah, exactly. There's a time and a place, I think, for YouTube advertising, and it definitely suits specific businesses. I think YouTube is. Again, like a lot of people will use YouTube as a search engine, as an educational platform. They go to YouTube to learn how to do something or find out more about something, and that's where if you have a product or a service that is maybe it's higher ticket, maybe it's more involved. It could be something that's educational or professional services or something like that. Something that has a more of an educational piece attached to it. YouTube is fantastic for that because you get to display that dynamic, marketing style where you can talk to someone, you can give them visuals, you can show them more about it, and really start to build brand with that person. So that's where it's really effective. Love that. Okay, so what about let's turn to costs now associated with Google Ads as well. So we've kind of touched on the 4 main placements across Google currently. And we also touched on the fact that depending on what keywords you're using, that is going to depend on what cost per click you are paying. But yeah, let's talk a little bit more around costs.
Yeah, of course. So I like to tell business owners, particularly in like the e-commerce space, a good sort of benchmark to aim for is spend about 3 grand and get 10 grand in revenue. That's
Mhm.
just like minimum benchmark we should aim for, but obviously we'll work with you to try and get more than that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's it's a for us in particular, it is that sort of 3-to-1 ratio where you invest $1 into Google Ads, and at a minimum, we are looking to generate a $3 return. Again, obviously, it depends on the type of business and the types of advertising that we are running, but that's definitely a benchmark, and it's one of the things that we're always talking to businesses and brands about upfront in that discovery process. Is what is the end goal? What are you trying to achieve in terms of a revenue amount? And then what do we need to invest into Google in order to try and hit that KPI, that amount of revenue? So I think obviously the investment side of things is always probably one of the most daunting parts of investing into digital media, digital marketing. But it is definitely possible to have that conversation and break down the numbers ahead of time. That is going to give you a bit of an idea of what is potentially going to be possible before you start actually advertising. What other, in terms of the costs associated with Google? Obviously, we have cost per click based on the keyword, and obviously the placement as well, where the Google ads are being shown. Are there any other types of costs or anything that we need to be considering if people are looking at running Google ads?
I suppose if you are looking at getting external help, then there's management fees from agencies.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. That's a great thing to consider as well. And also, that's something that we build into, if we are talking to you about being your Google advertising partner, obviously those fees are built into that pricing structure, and we're always looking to generate a positive return on investment. So that's something that we always consider, and I think a lot of the time. These days people have experienced or had not a great experience when it comes to paid advertising. And I think that generally comes down to the fact that there's been a lack of planning, a lack of strategy. It's been the case where it's like, okay, let's run some Google ads. We'll throw X amount per month at it, and let's cross our fingers and hope that it works. And that crossing your fingers and hoping that it works attitude is often where people can come unstuck. And I think the strategy piece up front is key to making sure that you're getting your paid advertising campaigns off to the best start possible.
Yeah, definitely. Like I think it's important for a business owner to know at least some of what's going on. They don't need to know everything, but just enough so that they know that they're in good hands.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the whole reason for us doing, these types of podcasts as well. It's like to help break down, the walls of, the world of Google advertising and how it does all work, so that the business owner has an idea on what is possible, what's involved, how it works, etc., and so forth. And that's the conversation that we're happy to have with anybody. Let's talk about a couple of the results that we've got for some of our, our clients and our partners as well in the past. In particular, I've got a couple of examples here that we could run through. We have a custom timber furniture brand that we partner with and we run advertising for. And we've got run a fantastic campaign recently where we spent around $6,000 over the life of the campaign, and that turned into around $120,000 worth of revenue. So again, there's some pretty impressive results, but just sort of run us through how that was possible. How did we run campaigns where we spent $6,000 and that turned into $120,000?
Well, the important parts of these campaigns are showing up when people are looking for custom furniture.
Yeah.
So a big key part was the search ads. So just making sure that we've got an ad for various search queries that people could be typing in.
Yep.
And then also sending those people to a website that matches up with those search queries people were looking for.
So important.
Yeah, and then we also ran that in combination with display ads. Again, those retargeting, remarketing ads to just sort of remind people, hey, like there's this good timber furniture maker, you should come,
Yeah.
maybe come back to them if you were, went off somewhere else and wanted to think about it. These ones are here too.
Exactly. And I think like that's a good point that you make as well. We can talk about how how good the results are, right? But at the end of the day, there's a lot more to having a successful campaign like that than just running Google ads, right? You need to have Google ads first and foremost, but you need to have a great strategy. You need to have the right copy, the right imagery on those ads in order to get people's attention and get them through to the website. Then you need to have a website that works. You need to have a process on the website where people can inquire or buy, and that needs to work really, really well. And then you need to have a great sales process on the back end as well. So it's that whole business structure, but Google is that that engine that allows you to amplify your sales and the amount of traffic coming through to your website. So
yeah, definitely. Like getting people to click is only half the battle.
exactly.
And although like I wasn't involved with setting up the whole like automated lead email capture and all that stuff, it just worked super well.
Yeah, it does. It does work super well and continues to work well today. Another client that I thought about touching on was a plumbing client, so a trade-based business. And again, this is something where a lot of opportunity. I think we find it probably more so, especially in sort of regional areas as well, is that for trade-based businesses there's less paid advertising going on. But in particular, we have a paid advertising a plumbing-based client, where with the Google campaigns that we were running, there were certain months where we were doubling their revenue with the new business that was coming through Google. And I think like that alone is such a powerful thing for anybody who's running a trade-based business out there. The opportunity and the work is out there. The question is, how can you acquire more market share? How can you get more of that business into your business than somebody else's? So again, some of the results there, again, like in terms of the best months, turning $1,000 worth of ad spend, $1,500 worth of ad spend into $35,000+ worth of revenue. So again, that's a pretty crazy result, but it just gives you an understanding of what you can invest into Google and the amount of business you can generate from that. And I think that's something that a lot of business owners are definitely missing out on. Do you think so?
Yeah, definitely. There's people out there who they're not going to know that you exist unless you put yourself out there.
Yeah. And I think also the thing that it works so well in that case is you have, with a plumbing business, for example, a lot of the time, people need a plumber like in emergency situations, right? Or they need something fixed really, really quickly. So there's a lot of drive to get that business to help them straight away. It's not a long sales process. People don't have to consider it for a long time. It's like, we need a plumber, we need them now. They're jumping onto Google and they're searching for their local plumber, someone that's going to be able to help them. So the business can come through quite rapidly and can be extremely, extremely profitable when it's done the right way.
Yeah, it's so good.
Excellent. Lou, thanks you so much. I think, we've definitely been able to break down Google pay-per-click at least a little bit today. Obviously, there's so much more that we can dive into, but I think for anybody who is tuning in and thinking, hey, look, it sounds like there's potentially some opportunity, for our business to implement a Google strategy, the thing that we always say is just reach out. Let's have a conversation. We're always happy to chat, happy to answer questions, and just help you to understand in a no obligation way. Is Google going to be a potential fit for you to grow your business? Always happy to have the conversation. Lou, thanks so much for your time. looking forward to diving into a lot more in terms of Google moving forward, and being able to help businesses really get the most out of their digital marketing. So thanks so much for your time today.
Yeah, it's been great.
Fantastic. We'll talk to you soon. So that's it for another episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. As we mentioned, we'd love to get your thoughts and feedback on this episode. You can do that by heading over to our Instagram @AttentionMedia Agency and letting us know what your thoughts. Send us a message. We'd love to hear from you. We'd also love to know what you'd like us to talk about in upcoming episodes. So send us your topic ideas. We are always interested. And if you'd love to know more, head over to the website attentionmedia.com.au. That's all for now. We'll see you in the next episode.